All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the weekly webinar. We're so glad to have you here for another great presentation on brain health. As always, we'll ask that you please keep yourselves on mute during our presentation. Use the chat feature if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question. I'll watch that for our presenter, and I think she will be happy to answer questions maybe at the end of her presentation. We will remind you that if you need closed captioning, you can click on the show captions button at the bottom of your screen, and that will allow you to have that accessibility feature. We are recording today's presentation, so if you'd like to go back and watch it another time, you'll be able to do that. You can also tell your friends about it. Spread the word that it was a really great presentation, and that will be available by tomorrow for you. I think those are all of our usual housekeeping announcements. So I will move on to introducing our speaker for the day, who is Dr. Erin Blocker. And Dr. Blocker is the director of LEAP. And I know a lot of you are familiar with LEAP. That's the Lifestyle Empowerment for Alzheimer's Prevention program. And Dr. Blocker directs that at Emporia State University. And she is also an assistant professor there. We know lots of wonderful things about LEAP and how it is helping us to live our best lives and promote brain health. And we'll hear more about that from Dr. Blocker today. We also want you to know that Dr. Blocker is a hope spreader and an energetic speaker. So I know we're all in for a treat when I turn it over to her in just a moment. But before I do that, I'll let you know that she has an extensive background in exercise physiology, nutrition, and athletics. And she has an approach to health and wellness that is not necessarily one size fits all. And she wants to help people live their most abundant lives. Dr. Blocker lives in Emporia with her husband and her sons, and it is our treat to have her with us today. So with that, Dr. Blocker, it's all yours. Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, Kelly, thank you so much for the nice intro, and thank you everyone for being here. I see we've got a huge group. This is so awesome. So like Kelly said, I am at Emporia State University, and I'm the director of the LEAP at ESU program. So I get to do all of the fun LEAP programming here in Emporia, and we do stuff with people ranging in age all the way from infants all the way through old age. So we've really taken the LEAP program and kind of tweaked it and made it our own, and trying to impact as many people and generations as possible. Okay, so I am sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see that PowerPoint. Kelly, we're good to go? Okay, awesome. And I believe my PowerPoint automatically does closed captions anyway, so you can probably read along as I speak. But yeah, today we're going to talk about exercise and physical activity and how it impacts your brain. This is something that's near and dear to my heart because I'm an exercise physiologist. I was a coach for a really long time. I still teach exercise to my LEAP ladies here in Emporia. And so I'm really excited to just share some info with you and take as many questions as I possibly can. So today what we're going to try to do is talk about the difference between physical activity and exercise and how those things relate to brain health. We're going to talk about the national governing body recommendations. You know, we all know that exercise is good for us, but how much should you be doing? When should you be doing it? What type of exercise? A lot of people don't have the answers to those questions. So we'll discuss that. And we're going to try a few exercises together as well, or you can at least watch me demonstrate some of the exercises and then maybe try them at home. I think that was Kelly saying she's going to get up and try them with us. Yep, absolutely. Perfect. So that's what we're going to try to hit, and I'm going to try to squeeze it all into 20 minutes. So Kelly just cut me off when I get to that 20-minute mark. But one thing that I want to address first is physical activity and exercise are related, but they are not the same thing. So physical activity is any movement throughout the day. Walking the dog, doing the dishes, getting ready in the morning, cleaning the house, mowing your lawn, okay? This is not actually exercise. When you mow the lawn or you walk the dog or you do your daily hygiene, you're not doing that with the purpose of trying to build a healthier heart or create stronger muscles or improve your flexibility, right? These are just things that we do, and they burn calories, and that's great. and they are good for us in their own way, but it's not truly exercise. Exercise is planned, structured physical activity with the goal of improving some sort of health-related component. So I'm either trying to get stronger or become more flexible, or maybe become more agile, or reduce my risk of falling, or improve my heart health. So that is the difference between those two things. So exercise would be, going for brisk walks to the point where it's kind of hard to carry on a conversation. Cycling, group fitness, any sort of strength training, it can take on a lot of different forms. Group exercise classes like yoga and Pilates and circuit training, those all fit into the exercise realm, right? So how do these things relate to my brain health? We know they're good for physical health. And even though we know they're good for physical health, how many of us know people who still don't engage in exercise on a regular basis, right? I know I've gone throughout periods of my life where I didn't really want to exercise all the time. So we know that it's really important for us, but maybe understanding why it's so important can help us maybe engage in that activity a little bit more. So exercise reduces your risk for just about every disease known to man, right? Reduces your risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, even things like depression and anxiety, the mental health concerns that we hear so much about today, right? Things like arthritis, which tend to be more of an age-related issue that we deal with as we get older. Even some cancers, we're seeing links to exercise reducing risk for those cancers. The cool thing is that every single one of those diseases, those issues, those ailments, those are all risk factors for Alzheimer's disease and really dementia as a whole, right? So any sort of cognitive decline. So if we're reducing our risk for type 2 diabetes, we are also reducing our risk for Alzheimer's disease, which is a great thing. We're killing like 10 birds with one stone, not just two. So that's really powerful. And one thing that I have found in my time as an academic researcher, fitness instructor, whatever, is that people are much more concerned with losing their independence because they have lost their mental capacity than they are of having a heart attack or getting type 2 diabetes, because there are fixes for those things, right? If you have a heart attack, you could get a stent put in most cases. You can go on medications. If you have type 2 diabetes, we can go on medication. You can reverse type 2 diabetes through exercise and nutrition. But if you get dementia, there's really no fix for that. And so we're finding that if we can teach people that exercise is protective for your brain, we have a better chance of getting people to move into exercise because of that reason than because of things like heart attack, arthritis, some of those common ailments that we all see. So let's talk about the research and what we know so far and kind of where things are moving. And we'll address some of these questions because these are questions that I get a lot. What type of exercise is the best? What's most beneficial for my body and my brain? How much do I need to do? What's the bare minimum that I can do, right? Which that's an okay question. And does it differ? Does it differ for somebody who's been working out all their life versus somebody who hasn't worked out in 10 years, right? What do the results look like? So let's look at a little bit of the research if my PowerPoint wants to advance. There we go. So this is a study that was done at the KU ADRC by Dr. Vidoni and colleagues. And this was looking specifically at aerobic exercise and its impact on brain health, right? And they wanted to see, is there a dose response relationship between the two? And so basically what that's asking is more better? If I do more aerobic exercise, is my brain going to become even healthier, right? And so what they did is they did 6 months, 26 weeks of aerobic exercise, looked at cognition, looked at cardiorespiratory fitness. So they did something called a VO2 max test, which is a measure of your heart health, looked at some different functional health measures. And what they specifically did was have a couple different groups. So we always have that control group that does nothing, that just lives life. One group did 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week of aerobic exercise. So all they had to do was walk on a treadmill 15 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. Okay, pretty easy sell to most people. The next group did the 150 minutes per week. That's the recommendation by all the national governing bodies. 150 minutes per week, that's 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And then a third exercise group did 225 minutes per week. So quite a bit more to see, is there this dose response relationship, right? Walked on a treadmill at a moderate intensity. So brisk pace, can't really have a fluid conversation. And what they found is that even that 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that was good for improving cognition, right? This is huge. This is where like the hope spreader gets to come in, right? Because most people, if you're like, hey, you've been sedentary for 10 years, you need to go exercise 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, they're going to look at you like you're crazy, right? That's really intimidating. That 150, it just sounds like a huge unfeasible number. 15 minutes a day, that's feasible, right? Most people will look at that and say, okay, I think I can handle that. I can start there, right? And so that is really, really promising and really hopeful that even that amount of exercise can have a cognitive benefit. Moreover, what they found is that, yes, the more exercise you do, the better, but the strongest relationship was between improving your heart health and your cognitive function. So even that group that did 75 minutes per week, if they started out and they were sedentary and that VO2 max heart health number was really low, if they improved that dramatically, which they did after 75 minutes per week, that had a stronger benefit. Again, so just giving people that that hope that you don't have to go from 0 to 180, right? Start where you are, get a little bit of momentum going, and then you can build upon that. But that's going to be enough to improve both your physical health and your cognitive health as well. Vidoni and colleagues did another study, really recent, published in 2022, looking at dynamic responses. We're actually looking at blood flow responses here to exercise. And so what they did is they wanted to see immediately following this aerobic exercise, when we take people, older adults, 73 years, plus or minus a few, if we take older adults and we make them do one bout of aerobic exercise, what happens to their cerebral blood flow? So the blood flow through the brain, right? That's what CBF is. Individuals that did this study were both with and without APOE4, right? APOE4 is the allele that we know increases risk or has been linked to increased risk in Alzheimer's disease. So they took people both with and without this. And what was cool is that the cerebral blood flow increased after exercise. Increased blood flow is always beneficial because we're delivering oxygen and we're removing waste. Okay, so anytime we see increased blood flow, that's a good thing. And the neat thing is that it increased regardless of whether or not people had that allele. So having that allele did not prevent the benefits of the exercise. That was really awesome. And the increase was somewhat regional. The greatest increase in blood flow was noticed in the hippocampus. So if anyone is familiar with the hippocampus, that's the region of the brain where we store our memories and we transfer our memories. So we store those short-term memories and we transfer them to long-term memories. So the fact that we're increasing blood flow to that region means we're really giving that region as healthy and as much blood flow and oxygen, removing all the waste that we can to help it do its job, right? The hippocampus is also the region where we do all of our repair of our muscular tissue that we've had throughout the day. So when we're doing our exercise, we're damaging our muscles. When we just go through our day, we have different tissue damage. And so when we sleep at night, that hippocampus, it actually repairs that damage. So again, having that region have the most blood flow increase, that was really, really promising. And then we look at resistance training. This is an area of exercise that we don't have as much research. We're starting to get a lot more research looking at resistance training and its impact on brain health, because some studies have shown some really promising benefits. And it really makes common sense that if you're doing a skill that requires some coordination, that would be somehow impacting your brain. So this study looked at women only, did an entire year of resistance training, and all they had people do was either 1 day a week or 2 days a week of resistance training. Okay, it wasn't 5 days a week, it wasn't 3, just once or twice. They looked at their executive functions, they looked at memory, and they simply compared their baseline tests with their 1 year follow-up. And then they looked 2 years later, they did a 2 year follow-up to see, did any of these adaptations stick, right? And what they found was that at that 2 year follow-up, both frequencies, so both 1 day a week and 2 days a week, promoted executive function, which was great. So we're seeing some really good physical benefits. In addition, the twice weekly resistance training group had better memory, reduced their white matter atrophy, which this is huge. White matter atrophy is the shrinking of your white matter. And we know that this happens at an incredible rate with people with cognitive decline, right? Twice as fast as the normal aging brain. So again, very promising there that we can slow down that white matter atrophy by simply doing twice a week of resistance training. Also increase peak muscle power. So your ability to generate force with your muscles. That's really beneficial for your physical health, things like reducing risk of falls and just being able to get through your activities of daily living at an easier capacity, if you will. So again, suggesting that, hey, this resistance training, this may be something to look at. Maybe we need a little bit more research in this realm. And that's what the ADRC is doing now with the COMET study, looking at comparing resistance only, aerobic only, resistance and aerobic together, or the balance and toning, which we know is not the answer. So we at least have answered that question. But that is a 5-year study that's going on right now. And we're actually collaborating here in Emporia and having a research site here as well. So it'll be really interesting a few years down the line to get the results and learn what we found there. So I am going to employ you all to see if we can answer some of these questions. So these are kind of the basics that most people want to know when it comes to exercise, when they think, okay, so exercise is good for me. It's good for my brain. I should probably do it, right? But where the heck do I start, right? How often should I exercise? What exercises do I need to be doing? What about the sets and reps? How much weight do I lift? How much rest do I take? Things like that. So I'm going to put a question on the screen. And if you think you know the answer, I want you to unmute and just yell it out. Okay. So going to require some sound here. All right. First one, what type of exercise increases your heart rate, promotes heart health, and works large muscle groups?
Aerobic.
Mhm.
Aerobic.
Beautiful, right? That was kind of a dead giveaway, right? Increases your heart rate, promotes heart health. Good, good, good. And we know that aerobic exercise is not only going to improve your heart health, but it's great for your brain health as well, right? And our heart actually has specialized muscle. Our heart is essentially, it's covered in muscle, and we have to work that muscle if we want it to adapt. We can make it healthier. By making our heart healthier, it can basically become a more forceful muscle and pump more blood out to our working muscles and remove more waste. So that's a really, really beneficial adaptation. Okay. This one, if you can think back to a few slides, you can probably get this answer. How much aerobic exercise should I aim for? And think about that moderate intensity, because we really haven't talked vigorous yet.
75.
Ooh, very close. What's the national governing body recommendation? Anybody remember that one?
150.
Yes, 150, right? So it's recommended that we aim for 150 minutes a week of the moderate intensity. Moderate intensity is kind of hard to assess just out of the blue, but if you use a modified RPE scale, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard does it feel to you? Somewhere in that 3 to 6 range. The easiest way for me to describe it to people is if you're out for a walk with a friend and you can get out some words, but you can't have a really smooth conversation, you're in the right zone, right? That's moderate intensity. And then you've got some examples there. The vigorous intensity, this is like, you are sucking wind, you cannot have a conversation. Maybe you feel a little nauseous at the end of the workout, right? Like really intense workout. This, we can cut that time in half, 75 minutes per week, right? Now, is that everybody's cup of tea? Not most people, right? Now, the cool thing about the vigorous intensity exercise is if you do something like HIIT training, Tabata is a really wonderful but terrible exercise. It's really, really painful, but it is so beneficial. I mean, one bout of 4-minute Tabata has actually been shown to increase the quality and quantity of your mitochondria and improve your heart health. But it's really gut-wrenching. It's not the most fun, right? But you can cut that number in half if you do the vigorous intensity. Now, what was the sort of asterisk here with that 150 minutes per week? Is this for everybody?
No.
No, right? Like if I'm just starting out with exercise, I do not need to shoot for that 150. That's like people who have been really sedentary for a long time, aiming for that arbitrary 10,000 steps a day, right? We don't need to be shooting for that. We need to start where we're at and gradually make progress from there. So that's where that, hey, as little as 75 minutes a week can be really, really beneficial of that moderate intensity workout. And as long as you're doing your aerobic workouts and you're doing them in bouts of about 10 minutes or more, that is heart health benefits. That's going to promote heart health benefits, and that is going to elicit brain health benefits. So if you can kind of remember that, shoot for at least 10 minutes at a time. that seems to be very beneficial. Okay, my screen just got enormous. All right, we haven't really talked about flexibility yet, but I'm going to test you anyway. So static flexibility should be performed at the blank of a workout. Static flexibility is like sitting down and reaching for your toes and holding that position.
And
Yes, at the end. Okay. Does anybody know why at the end?
as your muscles are warmed up then.
Exactly, right? If I do this stuff at the beginning of the workout, my muscles are not warmed up. They're not prepped. They're not ready to go through a full range of motion. So I always tell my students and the exercise gals that I work with, think of your muscles like spaghetti noodles. When you wake up first thing in the morning, it's like you're taking those noodles right out of the box. And what happens when you try to break them in half? They literally break, right? So you're going to do a lot more damage stretching those cold muscles than you would if you warmed them up, put them in the boiling water, right? Get them really hot, and then they become very flexible and very pliable, much, much safer. All right, so these are just a couple examples of static stretches. Like the example I gave the seated hamstring stretch where you're sitting down, reaching for your toes, holding that for a certain period of time. A standing quadricep stretch, which I usually do with a chair. And I don't know how well everybody can see me. Oh, I need to adjust this. But the standing quad stretch is a really nice one. Reaching back, grabbing hold of the ankle, trying to press that knee straight down into the ground. If you're not this flexible in that knee joint, you can use your chair in a different fashion. And simply prop that leg up. If you have a taller surface, you can prop it up a little bit higher, but gets that quadriceps, those quadriceps muscles on the front of your thighs, right? And then shoulder stretch, you can do a number of different shoulder stretches. The one I typically think of is, reaching across the body, pressing against that upper arm, holding that position. Okay, kind of a nice feel-good stretch. All right, so when I'm doing these stretches, how long should I hold everything? How many muscle groups should I stretch? So let's kind of skip over the first bullet, but how long do you think you should hold the stretches? Any thoughts? 20 seconds. Okay, good guess. Any other thoughts on that one? All right, so the correct answer is kind of a range, right? And it's very individual. It varies by person. So we want to stretch all the muscle groups, right? We want to hit every muscle group within our body, not just, the upper body and then ignore the lower body or vice versa. We want to hold every stretch for 10 to 60 seconds until we get to a cumulative 60 seconds. So if I did that quad stretch and I held it for 20 seconds, I need to do it 3 times, right? So I would rest, do the other leg, go back to the first leg, do it again until I get to a cumulative 60 seconds on each side, right? And the more that you do this flexibility training, guess what happens? The longer you can hold the stretches comfortably. And so eventually you get to the point where you can hold them for 30 to 60 seconds, and then you only have to do that stretch 1 time. Okay, what about dynamic flexibility? When do I perform that? And does anybody know what dynamic flexibility is, or should I define it? Define it. Okay, so dynamic flexibility is taking the body or some joint or a few joints of your body through a range of motion and gradually trying to increase that range of motion throughout. So it might be like walking lunges, heel to toe walks, walking up on the tiptoes, walking on your heels, leg swings, arm swings, things like that. Any guesses on this one? So this one you can actually perform at any point during the workout, right? So both is the correct answer because you are moving through a range of motion. You're essentially warming up your body and you're not asking it to go to a certain range and hold that range and really do a lot of overstretching or damage. So each time I do this exercise, I'm just gradually increasing that range of motion. Very comfortable, very slow, and you're producing body heat at the same time. And so it kind of, again, sort of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So when we do our LEAP exercise class twice a week here in Emporia, we typically do this as part of our warm up. We'll do our cardio, we'll do our dynamic stretches, then we'll go into our strength session, and then we'll end the workout with some more static stretching. And we'll do a few of these later together. What about strength exercise? It improves which of the following things?
All of the above.
Yep, all of the above, right? What is body composition? What is that referring to?
Muscle mass.
Yeah, and it's really like the ratio of your muscle. So it's really the ratio of your fat mass to your fat-free mass. So it's your fat versus your muscle, your bone, all the other tissue that is not considered fat. So we get when you get your body composition analyzed, it's a % body fat is typically what we're looking at, right? So strength training improves our lean muscle tissue. So that improves our body composition, improves coordination, improves balance, right? Strong muscles create strong joints. That helps us to have better balance and better coordination and reduce risk of falls, right? Okay, strength training. This one is kind of a tricky one. So I'm just going to kind of blurt out the answers for this one and walk through each bullet point. So the American Council on Sports Medicine recommends that we do strength training 2 to 3 days per week, that we do 8 to 10 exercises that work all over the muscle groups. And you can split this between training sessions if you want, different days, 2 to 3 sets of everything, 8 to 12 reps of everything. Right. So initially looking at that, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in the gym all day long doing all those exercises. Right. There are some sort of asterisks here. So this is when you're starting out and you're new to strength training, this is really how we want to strength train. We want to use a lot of machine weights, gradually getting to those free weights. We want to work on lots of technique, really learning the exercises properly. But most of our exercises are single joint exercises. So things like the biceps curl, right? If I'm doing a biceps curl, there is one joint that's really doing the work, right? As I get more coordinated, I get stronger, just everything, my balance, my coordination become better. I can move on to more complicated exercises that are multi-joint exercises. And then maybe instead of doing 8 to 10 exercises every time I go to the gym, I can do those more complex exercises, and maybe I'm only doing 5 or 6 exercises, and that's cutting down a little bit on my exercise time. So I always like to point that out because I think this looks intimidating to most people on first glance. And then when people ask, how much weight should I use? The rule of thumb is really you want to use a weight where you can accomplish the 8 to 12 reps, right? If you get to 12 repetitions and you think, oh, I could keep going. I could do 14. I could do 16. I could just do the second set, right? That is not enough weight. You are not lifting enough weight. So you need to increase that weight, right? If you are lifting and you get to 6 and you're thinking, if I do another rep, I'm going to hurt myself, right? That's too heavy. So we need to find that happy medium. And really the first few times that you do strength training, you kind of have to play around with it and you have to figure out what weight is appropriate for you. And then you keep a log of that and you track that as you're ready to increase your weight over the course of so many weeks, months, years. Okay, so we're going to do a couple dynamic exercises together because I want people to see it, feel it. So if you are a brave individual or you just like exercise, you are welcome to turn your camera on and do these things with me. You're welcome to leave your camera off and just try it with your camera off as well. But I'm going to adjust my camera so that you can see my feet. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit goofy, but you're going to be looking at my feet in my office, which is not the cleanest at the moment because I'm getting ready to host an event tonight. Okay, so we're going to move this out of the way and see if I can get all the way down here. That should work. Okay, can people see my feet pretty well?
Yes.
He's off. All right, thank you. All right, what I'm going to do is a heel to toe walk, and it is exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to walk from my heel to my toe, lifting up onto that toe. And I'm going to do that repeatedly across the floor. Okay. Most of the time I tell people slow controlled exercise is the way to go. This is the one exercise where moving faster is actually safer. If you go too slow, you tend to fall over. Okay. So I'm going to start all the way back by my desk and I'm just going to bounce heel to toe, heel to toe, heel to toe. Right. And I would do this all the way across a gym space or my living room, right? Just really bouncing. Things that will impact your ability to do this one. Your balance, obviously. Your strength in your lower leg muscles like the calves. And then just tightness in the joints. So if you tend to be really tight around the ankles, the hamstrings, the calves, you may not be able to get all the way up onto that toe, and that's okay. Just kind of work towards that. But we always want to over exaggerate that heel plant. So every time I hit the ground, I'm planting that heel, pulling that toe up as high as I can, and rolling through that range of motion is really, really good. This would be my calf. I guess I would be walking like this, right? Okay, rolling all the way through. You're getting a lot of actual stretching of the fascia underneath your foot. So avoiding things like plantar fascia or plantar fasciitis, and also working through the lower legs as well. So that's a really good one that we do a lot. Another one that we do a lot is our knee hugs. Okay, and so I'll adjust my camera again, and this one's really great for the hamstrings. And again, we do it a couple different ways. I think I can adjust to about there. All right. And so what we do is we grab underneath the hamstring, right? Grab underneath the hamstring, dorsiflex that foot. This is pointing. This is dorsiflexing, right? And we grab underneath that hamstring and we pull that hamstring up to our belly. And as I do that, if I feel good and stable, I lift up onto my opposite leg and I fall forward. Then I do the same thing with the opposite leg. And so I do this again, moving across my living room. Maybe I would do each leg 5 times. So I grab the leg, lift, and step. Grab the other leg, lift, and step. Again, if flexibility or muscular strength in those lower limbs don't allow, don't worry about that lift up onto the foot. You can always add that later on. Okay, so those are just a few examples. We also do leg swings. We'll do arm swings sometimes. We don't do a lot of walking lunges in class simply because there is a lot of pressure on the knees if you don't do them properly. And so rather than constantly harping on technique of that exercise, we do things like the knee hug. That's just a little bit safer and easier. Okay, so a couple last things. I've just got 2 slides left and then we can open it up for questions. You don't have to have weights to lift weights, right? We have our body weight, and there are so many things around the house and around the yard that you can use for weights, right? So lots of exercises to consider. Body weight squats, probably one of the best exercises that you can do. I think my 2 top exercises that I would recommend to people, if you could do 2 exercises for the rest of time, would be squats of some form and push-ups. And I'm talking full body push-ups, not on your knees. Okay, so I'll show you a couple options for that. The table, the wall push-ups, the incline push-ups, those are all really, really effective. What portion of your body do you think push-ups targets?
Arms.
Triceps.
You would think, right? It does target your arms.
Yes.
Core, right? It's like everything. If you really do a push-up correctly, it is a total body exercise, right? So there is a significant impact on the shoulder girdle muscles and the chest and the triceps and all that kind of stuff. But if you do it properly, you're getting the trunk muscles as well. And that's not just your abs, right? That's your lower back muscles as well. If you do it properly, you should feel it in your glutes and your hamstrings and your quads all the way down to your ankles, right? So I'll kind of show you a couple different ways to do push-ups and talk about those. Calf raises, I just like as an auxiliary exercise because they are great for balance, right? Calf raises are really beneficial. Again, kind of slowing down that heel to toe walk motion, but doing it on double legs. That's a great exercise. I love step ups. Doesn't matter what height the box is that you're stepping up onto, but step ups are very functional. It mimics things that we do in everyday life all the time, going up and down the stairs, stepping up onto objects, stepping over things. So very, very functional, but it works all of the backside chain muscles, right? Hamstrings, glutes, calves, all the way up and down, lower back, everything. So those are really great. And then a very functional exercise is chair, sit, and stand. So sometimes we will throw this into our workout in the middle of a strength training circuit just to add a little bit of cardio, but we're getting muscular endurance at the same time. So I'll show you that one real quick. And again, if you want to try this one, you can. Very simple. It's called the 30-second chair, sit, and stand. And I should have told everybody, this is an exercise skirt, by the way. So when I'm like moving around, there's built-in shorts underneath here. Don't want to scare anybody. So 30-second chair, sit, and stand. All I do is I take my arms and I crisscross them across my chest as long as I feel stable. and I'm sitting at the edge of a chair, right? So I'm kind of on the front half of my chair. My legs are spread as wide as the chair base. Okay, I want a really nice strong base with my legs. So crisscross those arms. I'm going to set a timer for 30 seconds. And when the timer says go, right, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to sit down over and over and over again. Okay. And all I'm doing is essentially body weight squats without the use of my arms, but I do get the assistance of the chair, right? You do have to put the weight down onto your bottom every single time. You can't just tap the chair and come back up. So we actually want that kind of amortization phase, that pause between going all the way down and coming back up. But that's a really good one. And you'll notice that even after 10, 15, 20 seconds, your heart starts racing. So you're getting that cardiovascular benefit at the same time that you're getting the strength benefit. So that one is really nice as well. And then the last one that I will show you is the push-up. So the way that I like to do push-ups, ideally would be on the ground, right? Just completely flat, but that's not feasible for everyone, right? So we do a lot of incline push-ups in class. I do a lot of incline push-ups when I have workshops. And so you want to pick a surface that's really, really stable. Okay, this chair is not a great example of a stable surface, but I'm going to use it anyway. A desk is great. A kitchen countertop is really good because it is a little bit taller than the average table. So it's a really nice starting point. But all I want to do to get myself set up is I want to have my shoulders pretty much right above the wrists. And then I want to create a straight line from my shoulders all the way down to my toes. Okay, so I'm trying to avoid this. I do not want this position. I want completely straight. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my feet to allow myself to touch my chest down to the chair, the table, the desk, the countertop, whatever, when I am all the way down. So I'm going to drive my elbows straight back, lowering down, touching that chest to the chair, to the surface, and then exhaling as I press everything back up, right? So I'm just going inhale down, exhale up, trying to keep that really, really straight line. And in order to do that properly, I have to squeeze everything in my body from my shoulders all the way down to my toes. Okay, hence the total body exercise. If I want to make it more difficult, I just lower the surface, right? So I can do the same thing on a much lower surface, right? As the strength improves. And again, set a goal for yourself of, I'd like to be able to do X number of incline push-ups. And then after so many weeks, if you've met that goal, change that goal. Say, okay, I wanted to do 5. Now I want to see if I can do sets of 7. Maybe in another month, I want to do sets of 9, just can gradually increase. The last thing that becomes a bit of a challenge, and we're really stepping into this zone right now, is weather, right? So we're starting to get into the time of year where it is really hot, it is really humid. You either have to exercise first thing in the morning, very early, or wait until the sun has set and go exercise in the dark at night, which isn't always the safest idea. We live out on gravel, so that's not the greatest idea late at night. So there are ways to get around this, right? You don't have to do middle of the day exercise in the scorching heat, or wintertime rolls around in Kansas. It's icy, maybe not safe. It's really, really cold. You don't love exercising outside. So you don't have to buy a gym membership. You absolutely can. That is a great option. But you can do things like this. You can throw together your favorite 5 to 8 strength exercises, put them into a circuit, perform each exercise for 30 seconds with minimal to no rest, trying to get through that entire thing without rest. Rest for 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes if you need a little bit more rest. Try to perform that 3 to 5 times. If you were to do that, let's say you had 5 exercises and you did 3 to 5 rounds, that would probably take you between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on what those exercises are, right? So great circuit training workout. And what are we getting? We're getting strength and we're getting cardio at the same time. The great thing about strength is that it also increases your flexibility because you're going through full ranges of motion. So typically when I'm doing things like squats and push-ups and lunges and whatever else, you're increasing your flexibility at the same time that you're improving your strength. So you're really getting a very well-rounded workout by doing something like this. So again, as long as you do that for at least 10 minutes, you're getting that cardiovascular benefit, you're getting that brain health benefit as well. So those are just a couple ideas of things that you could do. We do have a LEAP exercise handbook, and I don't know that I have one handy. I might. I do. So we have a booklet that looks like this. Woo, that's pretty difficult to see. I will try. There we go. And this book has all kinds of instructions. So every exercise that we do in our LEAP exercise classes, you've got pictures, you've got instructions, you've got modifications, all the different versions of that exercise that we do. Lots of pictures to look at to see, okay, do I look like this image? What are some different options here? Everything from the dynamic flexibility exercises, all the strength training stuff. And then in the back of the book, there are a handful of example workouts as well. So this one is available on Amazon. So if you wanted to grab one of those, you could hop onto Amazon, and if you search for my name, it should pop up. So that is just an option for people if they are interested, and it's pretty darn affordable too. I think it's like less than $20, so it's not a huge investment. But what questions do you all have for me? How can I help?
Thank you, Dr. Blocker. We had a question in the chat. I hope Yvonne is still with us on the meeting. She's asking, if I have to choose, what is better, aerobic or strength?
No, you don't. You don't have to choose at all. In fact, they're both great. And really the answer is you should do both, right? Shouldn't be just one. It should be a combination of the two. And so, for me, I really like to throw the different circuits together. I like to get the strength and the cardio in the same workout, because I don't want to be at the gym forever, or I don't want to be having to go for my run and then also do my strength training. I really like to kind of couple things together. Yeah, great question.
Okay, so you don't have to choose. How exciting.
Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Blocker, I did many of your exercises along with you, so I can attest.
Yay!
I have a dress, not even an exercise dress, but just a regular dress on. And I did them, and I was on a chair with wheels, which I do not recommend.
Oh, I would not recommend. I should have prefaced with that. Do not do the chair.
Don't do that. But I enjoyed them. Thank you. So I'm your witness that this was really great, and you can do it while you're sitting on your Zoom meeting at work.
There you go.
So,
Yeah. And I will say, for you, Kelly, or for anybody else, I have done a lot of exercise workshops in the past, and I have offered a few through the KU ADRC online. So if anybody is ever interested in that, let Kelly know, let Tina know, because I'm happy to hop on Zoom and lead a 30-minute exercise class for people. That would be really fun, especially in the summertime when there's a little bit less going on.
Yeah, well, I think we will take you up on that offer. So stay tuned. And everyone who's watching, we do have Dr. Blocker's presentation as a PDF. So if you'd like to have a copy of it, send an email to my alliance, and I will be happy to share that with you whenever you like. So thank you, Dr. Blocker. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We will be back next week with our topic. Next week is a daughter who is a caregiver for her mother, and she's going to share her caregiving experience, especially along the theme of caregiving being like walking in a labyrinth, in a maze. So a lot of you may resonate with that idea. And so she'll be with us next Thursday. We'll have more information about it in the My Alliance newsletter that comes out on Monday morning. And I think that's it for today. Thank you again to Dr. Blocker and to all of you. And we'll look forward to any questions or requests we have for her material. And it has Dr. Blocker's contact information in there too, if you want to reach out to her.
Yes, please do, anytime.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, thank you. Enjoy in Kansas City anyway, we're getting a little rain today. So enjoy that cooling off, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.